Welcome back, everyone. This is Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, here with part 2 of the talent trees video. And today we're going to be going over the yellow trees. Now, the yellow trees specifically go over styles of play, similar to how the blue trees worked, but in a very specific sense. And that'll become more evident the further on in the video this goes. Whereas we had the blue trees deal with defense, skills, supports, so on and so forth, the yellow trees kind of pick out where you're going to be using this commander, whether it be garrison, zombie hunting, we have siege as an option. You'll basically get an idea of what kind of commander it is, more so on where they're going to be placed on the field or on the map. But first things first, we're going to start off with arguably the worst one of these, and that is the general tree. The general tree is an attempt to take bits and pieces of all of the other trees and put them together into one commander as if it had a chance of being useful. It isn't. The general tree is what you can use on some of your green. For example, where's one? For example, Allison here has the general tree, and I used it in order to get the additional gathering and zombie hunting points, because those are the only things that are useful on a general tree. Outside of that, you're not doing yourself many favors, but we're going to go over the nodes anyway. First one, it's an easy one to get to. It's a 20% gathering speed buff, followed by reduction in stamina consumed by attacking zombies by 10. That can be helpful in a commander if you just need someone to handle additional zombies or someone to gather if you need a fifth. The other sides of this are where things get meh. Heavy fire increases squad attack by 4% during siege only, and during siege reduces damage taken from garrison squads by 2.5%. Both of these are minuscule compared to their specific siege tree. And here in the middle we have garrison. When garrisoning increases garrison squad attack, defense, and HP by 2% total, and increases squad's damage dealt to lookout towers by 3%, and reduces damage taken from lookout towers by, actually it's 12% when it's fully buffed. So this is both a siege and a garrison talent. This one is definitely interesting, but not worth it. Squads will randomly receive one of the following effects when they enter battle. Squad attack increases by 6%, defense increased by 6%, all damage increased by 6%, or travel speed increased by 6%. This lasts for only 5 seconds. Now, you can reset this by leaving combat and coming back into combat, but the best one here is an all damage increased by 6%, and you only get it for 5 seconds. There are nodes on other talents that do so much better than this, and they aren't even, and they're not all the way at the end, basically. So 6% increase to squad attack or defense. We know we've already saw them from the blue talent trees. We can do better than that without reaching all the way to the end. And it only lasts 5 seconds. So all in all, general tree, absolute garbage. Zombie hunter, very straightforward. This is primarily for increasing damage dealt to zombies and increasing the rewards you get from zombies, as well as increasing the efficiency for killing zombies. Starting on the damage side of things, we have squad's basic attack damage dealt to zombies by 10%, as well as an increased skill damage dealt to zombies by 18%. That's pretty substantial buffs to killing zombies. Definitely makes hive minds a lot faster. When a rally attack is launched by this hero, increases all damage dealt to zombies by the rally squad by 15%. Again, just hammering home how easy it is to kill hive minds with heroes that have the zombie hunter talents. Down here at the bottom is your efficiency side of things. Reduces stamina consumed when attacking zombies by 8. It's not as good as the general one, But again, you're missing out on so much more by not going with a zombie hunter lead. Increases squad's EXP gained from killing zombies by 18% total. And this one is honestly really nice. If you have a zombie hunter that you want to start using, I would come in here and pick this up as quickly as possible. Obtain 15 bonus random resource packs when you consume stamina to kill zombies. Basically, you can have 5 zombie hunters with this talent, and you're picking up 75 boxes of resources per zombie kill if you're using that method. If you don't know what method I'm talking about, I'm basically saying if you use 5 armies to kill 1 zombie, all of them have this talent, you're stacking those random resources. It's definitely a nice boost to resources early on in the game. It's not as helpful later, but with the amount of resources you need for some of the researches, definitely worth it. Here is a really powerful buff. Heals some lightly wounded units after killing zombies with a heal factor of 1800. That is almost a basic round of combat that you deal, which will likely heal all of your lightly wounded units after each time you kill zombies. Again, 5 zombie hunters on the field with this buff basically guarantees they're going to be out on the field the whole time. Until your troops are heavily wounded to the point where you have to go home, you shouldn't have any lightly wounded units left over. This will take care of most of them. But Zombie Hunter, really straightforward. If you have it, they should be running a Zombie Hunter team. Moving on to Gathering. Gathering, if your commander has this talent tree, they should stick to Gathering. This is an amazing tree for Gathering. And depending on how you play or what troops you tend to focus on, you can get your gatherers to focus on certain resources early on, because all 4 of these are different resources. So you have to go in different directions to get them early on in the game. Later, you'll get to level 43, I believe, 44, and be able to max this out no problem. But until that point, I would split up the Gathering heroes by what resource you want to focus on. That being said, all of these are 30% buffs to Gathering speed on each of them. Once you've picked up these 4, definitely come over and pick this one up. Squads led by this hero gain an additional 7.5% bonus resources. That's after everything is said and done. If you went and picked up 1,000,000 resources, you would get about 75,000, if I did my math right, extra resources per trip. This one is kind of nice. When you're gathering on the map, increases squad defense, but chances are you're gathering with tier 1 troops or troops that can't take a hit, really. So as soon as you see the red or get the notification that your troops are being attacked, you should be running. This defense buff doesn't do enough. At the end, just a very straightforward 30% gathering speed buff. That means for each resource, you have a total of a 60% gathering speed buff when you max this out. Definitely worth it. All in all, Gathering Tree is really nice. Every hero that has it should have it maxed out as soon as possible, just to help your resource gain. You're going to need it. Next, on to the 2 yellow trees that actually matter for combat. We'll actually start with Siege first because, well, to be perfectly honest, I'm not a big fan of the Siege tree. I wanted to test some things out, so I looked into it, but Siege is kind of hit and miss for me. I feel like there are better talent trees that you could focus on that will do better or more consistent buffs than Siege, but let's go over it. If you have a different opinion, please let me know in the comments. First off, increases squad load by 10%. Really helpful if you're attacking shelters, but with the limitations that the game has put on attacking shelters in cross-region events or Archipelago Raid, this isn't helpful. You're getting that squad load to kill people in your own region or to attack your own farms to make it a little bit more efficient. 10% isn't a lot. Reduces squad's counter damage taken by 10% is a solid one. We've seen that from the blue tree a couple of times. Actually, I believe it's on the defense tree. So reducing counter damage from an enemy that you know is going to be counter damaging you is really nice. Next, you have when a rally attack is launched by this hero, increases rally travel speed by 10%. Your rally's going to get there eventually. Once it gets there, there's no changing its direction. So having the additional travel speed seems stupid to me. This could have been replaced with something else, but I'm not the game developer. What do I know? Next, we have increases squad's damage dealt to lookout towers by 12% and reduces damage taken from lookout towers by 12%. What? Lookout towers are only up on shelters, and they don't last long. They're literally the first thing you kill. So having something that makes it more effective to kill those lookout towers doesn't seem helpful to me. Especially for towers or sanctums, like larger metros for Darkseal. This doesn't help you there. Now, you don't have to pick up these two until later, but we'll go over them. During Siege, increases squad attack by up to 5% and squad defense by 5%. If you've heard me talk about squad attack and defense, 5% is not a lot. For me, it is roughly about a 1.3... about a 1.6% increase in damage overall, and a 1.6% decrease in damage using defense. It's not a lot. And it's only locked to Siege. I don't see a lot of use there. During Siege, squad's basic attacks have a 10% chance to increase all damage dealt on the next turn by 10%. This one is actually really nice. Let me just double check on something here, because honestly, I do not know what this one is maxed out. It is a 50% buff. I was worried it was a 50% chance. This one is one that counteracts the infantry damage reduction and the defense tree damage reduction, because you can stack both of those to equal about a 35% decrease to damage for 2 seconds, I believe. But this increases the damage dealt on the next turn by 10%, and if you can get that to stack on a skill damage hit, it's a lot. But it's a 10% chance. So you can actually look at this as about a 5% increase to damage overall. Not bad. 5% does add up over time. And then you've got this one, which is honestly probably the main reason a lot of people go Siege. The number of units killed in battle will be reduced by, I want to say 9%. These units will be converted to heavily wounded units and sent to the hospital. With the advent of the aid station and it being honestly more effective at getting your troops back than the hospital or crisis aid, I don't see a lot of reason not to get your troops killed. Heavily wounded, you have to get them sent to the hospital and heal. Dead troops, before the aid station became a thing, you didn't get those troops back. So having an additional 9% of them stay behind that you can actually work on healing, absolutely, great option. But now, in Darkseal, you can get up to 90% of the troops that are dead back for free, just by waiting. So, while I think that this was a great idea when the game first came out, I don't see much use for it now. And finally, we'll get on to the garrison tree. And I'll admit, I don't use this one as much as I should, because I flip-flop between running garrisons and running field with my commanders. So I kind of hit a mix between the two, and that tends to avoid garrison talents. You'll see why. Garrison is just about surviving on the garrison, obviously. When garrisoning, reduces skill damage taken by 16%. Huge. If you're on garrison. Outside of garrison, this doesn't come into effect. When garrisoning, increases squad attack and defense by 5%. We talked about this on Siege. It's no different here. It's not a lot. When squads are garrisoning, increases lookout tower damage by 12% and reduces lookout tower damage taken by 12%. This is just counteracting the Siege one we just saw. If you have this talent and they have the other one, it's a wash. Does no difference. When garrisoning, squads gain 10 rage when attacked. Now, we talked about this from the defense tree. When attacked means that if your shelter or your tower is being swarmed, you're getting that 10 rage per target attacking you. That can add up after a while. Granted, you don't want to be taking additional rallies or additional swarms, but it can help mitigate some of the damage on garrison to know that, hey, I'm getting that additional rage, I'm getting my skills off just a little bit faster. It helps, especially if you're running commanders like Thunder or hell, even Thunder Lewis, so you can get that damage out faster, that healing out faster. It adds up. Next, we have when garrisoning, increases squad attack, defense, and HP by 2%. The HP buff is okay, but 2% is not a lot. It's really just not. Next, we have when garrisoning, if the garrison squad takes a flank attack, reduces all damage by 8%. A flank attack is an additional 100% of damage. Reducing the damage taken by 8% from the other target isn't a lot. It's not going to save you. And it doesn't stack. So if you have a second target, you'll get reduction in damage by 8%. If you have a third target, you don't get an additional 8%. It sucks, but you don't. Now, this is a controversial one because its usefulness is kind of flip-flop depending on what you're up against. When garrisoning, the garrison squad has a 10% chance to gain a shield that absorbs damage up to 1500, a damage factor of 1500 when attacked. There's no timer on this. So that 1500 can last until it goes away. Granted, it won't last long, but it becomes relevant later. This effect can be triggered only once in 6 seconds. This is a toss-up for me. And when Bella was first introduced as a commander that increases damage dealt whenever the enemy has a shield active, it was detrimental to pick this up because you were putting points into something that was just increasing Bella's damage. Granted, you were absorbing some of the hit, but if you were taking a skill damage hit from her on top of her increased damage, you were actually taking more damage with the shield up than you were without it. However, since since Eddie and Robert came out with the deflection of damage from the shield, as well as Eddie's awakened skill, adding an HP debuff whenever a shield goes down or dissipates, it's become it's quite a bit more effective because 1500 isn't going to last long. So it's another it's another instance of that HP debuff to guarantee that the enemies that you're up against, even on garrisons, because we'll go ahead and look at it. Eddie's awakened skill reduces the HP of up to 3 nearby enemy squads by 20% for 2 seconds. 2 seconds is not a long time, but if that activates once every 6 seconds, the shield goes down, you've got a 2-second heal, or 2-second HP debuff on top of Eddie's small shield himself for 2 seconds. And if you decide to go with another commander that adds a shield, say Raigoro, you could almost keep that HP debuff on the target that's hitting you consistently. Personally, I like the idea of a Raigoro Eddie garrison against multiple targets for that reason. Now, I'm still running some testing on that. I'll have to get back to you on it, but I still think Thunder is more effective in a lot of situations, but the idea that you can keep an HP debuff on enemies for a long period of time does sound kind of nice, right? But with that being said, this is still a toss-up for me. If you want to run it, I would run it with Eddie, specifically. And I would avoid this against Bella rallies. So if you've got the money to, or if you've got the ability to change your talents before a rally hits you and there's a Bella involved, I'd drop this one, pick up something else. You got 6 points. It can go into something else worthwhile. But if you're taking a rally from something else, that additional 1500 damage factor shield can come into play. But with that, that is your yellow talent trees. I apologize for this video taking too long, but there's a lot of talent trees to go over, and I wanted to sort them out by color. If you have any questions or concerns about what I'm saying about these talent trees, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Or if you think I'm wrong about any of this, please correct me. I want to know. A lot of these yellow trees I don't use for reason because I don't have the money to switch between types of combat that lock me into a certain style of play. Whereas the blue trees we talked about earlier are effective in all forms of combat. The yellow ones are only effective during certain types of combat. And with the next video, we will be going over all of the red trees. And honestly, these are my favorite ones. So I'll be happy to make this video later on today. If you have any questions, reach out in-game or on my Discord. But with that, this is Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, signing off.